Okay. Now let's see if we're streaming. Streaming. Yep, looks like we're streaming. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I had a little bit of a stream ingestion issue. I'm just confirming on the desktop here that we're streaming. Yep, we are. Good. Close that. Minimize that. Hello, Rondi. Okay, so again, we have loaded in here to Great Britain, the True South Great Britain, the True Earth Great Britain South package from Orbx. Say that 14 times fast. We are in VR, so we can get to experience it a little bit more easily and check out the scenery. I am running with my settings. I'll go ahead and pull them up here so that people can see. So visual effects, you can see this is how I normally run in VR. I actually have the anti-aliasing up a notch. I might turn it down and see if I can get a few more frames. I had it to set to high objects, but the frames were just too slow in the middle of central London for me. Frankly, if I'm flying around Los Angeles or other places where there are a lot of dense objects, I would run one notch below high as well. But I'm getting 45 frames with the anti-aliasing higher. Let's see if it makes a difference here. Not much, just doesn't quite look as good. So pretty smooth. I'm holding it about 45, 44 frames. I'm running the 3J FPS plug-in to keep my frames reasonable, but let's knock it up a notch, and at least looks a little better for me. So we're going to just, you know, turn things on and take a flight around London, and then maybe move to someplace further south. I don't really know my way around England quite as well as the United States in terms of aviation, but I'm sure we can find lots of cool places to fly. So without any further ado, let's get things going. Fuel pump for about 3 seconds. To prime, beacon on, feet on the brakes, mixture out, throttle in 1/4 inch, hand on the mixture. There we go. This is the REP 172 avionics. And everything else is looking pretty good there. Let's get our trim wheel alive. That takes a second to wake up. Okay. That's still set to Albert Whitted. That's funny. Yeah, so there we go. What is London City? It's EGLC. Hello, hey, thank you. Glad to have you as a fan. Again, we're testing out the new Orbx scenery. I've been waiting a long time for Orbx to make stuff for X-Plane, and I was so excited when I saw this that it was going to be released, and can't wait. I love running with ortho. It's so easy to make your own ortho scenery. Of course, it doesn't cost a thing. But the fact of the matter is, when you have somebody who's really looked into details and really placed objects carefully and has built, you know, custom scenery and trees and has ortho underneath, it can really be a fantastic experience. And so I'm really excited about the fact that good people at Orbx are starting to develop scenery for X-Plane. Squidly, do I have PC specs posted somewhere? I do. I have PC specs posted at www.ontheglideslope.net. There's a What's in the Sim tab there, and it has my relatively current settings and specs. So that should be helpful for you. ATIS 136.350. So this may lead to some more flying around England.
London City Information, India. 1100 Zulu weather.
Hello from New Zealand, Gigi.
Wind light and variable. Visibility 4. Sky clear. Temperature 2.0. Altimeter 2997. Arriving runway 09. Departing runway 09. Advise on initial contact. You have India.
Okay, I didn't hear the winds. We'll wait for that again in a minute here, and we're flying about 340.
London City Information, India. 1100 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable. Visibility 4. Sky clear. Temperature 2.0.
Winds light and variable. Okay.
Altimeter
No,
2997.
I don't plan to take off on the taxiway. It's not my plan. I don't plan to land on the taxiway either. Looks like our oil temperature has come up. Probably okay to taxi at this point. So London City, and if you guys could give me a check on the audio, I can double check on the settings. It takes me just a second. Looks like they're about right. Maybe I'm a little hot and they could be a little louder, but it gets louder when I start to take off, so 10 by 10, great. Okay, so we are here at London City. It's a bit of a foggy day in London, as one would expect, given that it's London. And visibility is about 4 miles. So if we can't see this, things around London in the new scenery very well, I'll just go to clearer settings. As I was sort of testing things out, I noticed that with the density of London, there were not a whole, you could definitely tell where the level of detail distance slider was set because there's so many buildings into the distance, and eventually they would just fade away. I've been in and out of London City a couple times. It looks a lot like this. This is whatever. One thing that the Orbx package doesn't do is it doesn't drop in customized airports. So whatever airports are in here are imports that you've already loaded into X-Plane. Also, I went in and in my scenery folder, and I use X-Organizer for this, I turned off all my other mesh, all my other ortho scenery, just so that the Orbx was running without anything to compete with. Just had a weather update. We're holding it about 40 frames. It's doing pretty well. Okay, strobes, nav, landing lights so we can be seen. And here we go. Let's take a look at what this scenery looks like. Now the brakes. On the center line, airspeed's alive. We're up to rotation speed 55. And we're off and flying. Now the visibility of 4 miles is definitely working against us here, but we'll just kind of see what it's like. We got to turn around if we want to go and see London proper, downtown central London, so we will do that. I can already tell you that we're going to... Okay, so it gives you a good sense of the buildings that they have. They definitely look English. Oh, there we go. Now we can see. I went with transparent textures, road textures. There's an option in the control panel where you can set that. So from this distance, the roads look much more natural, which is nice. There's a way to do that and to hack it in your settings and download some transparent textures for other ortho scenery, but I've not done that before. Really nice trees. Those look great. You can see the zoom level 17 ortho underneath. And again, I have objects not sent to full, but you can see how closely it matches those buildings down there where it has them. Now I thought that this was the big, I thought that would be a custom object, but maybe not. I thought that was the big circle dome shape thing. And that looks to me like, well, it's hard to tell. No, I guess that's how that's supposed to look. Okay, so level of detail draw distance is what it is. But you know, if you look at the quality of where there are oil tanks placed, tall and small buildings, I mean, this is a really immersive experience. If I were to go into my settings for max 3J FPS and go to max quality, there you can see that looks much more real. It cost me 15 frames to do that. I can live at 30 frames a second for a while. London landmarks is above Orbx entries. Okay, so I need to have London landmarks above the Orbx entries. Okay, well, we can probably just fix that. Yeah, because I've been to Canary Wharf, and yeah, the O2, that's right, that is what that is called. And I would want to be seeing those things. So here, I think we can fix that easily enough. Let's just pause here for a second. I'll quickly pop open my X organizer. And we should be able to reload the scenery. Landmarks. London landmarks from the most recent. I've got X-Plane landmarks Chicago, X-Plane landmarks Sydney. Trying to see where those would be listed. Maybe they aren't listed and that's the problem. Maybe I have to configure it manually. Okay, so you guys can't see what I'm seeing right now, although I can make it so you can, no reason not to. Here, I'll flip it over to desktop. Okay. So, let's see, we've got, well, I don't need two of it open, first of all. So, libraries, yeah, general, but that shouldn't be, those are just libraries, that shouldn't matter. Regional scenery, general. Washington, Dublin, X-Plane, X-Plane landmarks, London. There we go. That'll make a difference. Okay, now let's reload the scenery. This will take just a second. So that should fix it. It'll take a minute here to reload this, but in the meantime, we will wait patiently. Me here with my goggles propped on top of my head, which looks silly. So I'm curious if anybody in the chat has this yet. Sid, have you downloaded it Taxi, good to see you. Taxi, I think you are in Great Britain, aren't you? And if so, I'm curious if you have downloaded the Orbx scenery yet. Yeah, gotcha, Sid. That makes sense. Belgium. Yeah, Sid. Well, I'm excited to see it. I actually haven't flown around London yet, I don't think, with the new landmarks. No kidding on the SSD. My SSD size is, and I think I downloaded it to the hard drive. How are we doing? We got a little bit of space still to play with. I really don't use anything else on this. That's a backup drive there. That's the X-Plane drive. That's my ortho drive. Maybe I could put it on the ortho. Huh, yeah. Well, we'll see if this fixes it. Yeah, so, you know, when I first moved to X-Plane a year and a half ago or whatever it was, one of the first things I said was, I love it, and it sure flies better, to me at least. And I love how simple it is to use and to configure and to modify and those kinds of things. But I said, and once I found ortho scenery, I thought, wow, it's just the greatest because you can see, you know, real satellite imagery. But I missed Orbx, so we'll see how it goes. Finished asynchronous loading. I hope it actually loads and doesn't hang. Usually, if I need to reorder scenery order, I can do that, and it doesn't give me any problem when I reload the scenery. But you never know. I mean, we're running Oculus, we're running Chrome, we're running the set butt kicker. Oh, there, progress. Oh, there we go. And my frames have crashed. Let's go to auto. Boy, that really killed the frames, didn't it? Let's look around and see what we got. It's a slideshow. Looks good though, doesn't it? As slideshows go, this is a good one. Let's give it a second to catch up. Let me just look at some of these settings I've got here. Let me take the level of detail down a little bit for far objects. Well, that really cratered my frames. Let's unpause and see how things go. Maybe it'll get better when it has a chance to kind of fly and load itself back up. Uh-oh. I notice that sometimes when I reload scenery, my frames really take a hit. And I often think it's more because of how it might handle virtual RAM. Sometimes if I disable the VR headset, engine number 1 is failing. We're having a Reality XP issue. All right, let's pause here for a second. Let's re-enable our virtual headset. Let's get ourselves back in our seat. But now like this, with the London landmarks on top, this is a slideshow for me in VR. A total slideshow, which is disappointing. it was much... Why is my engine failing again? I applied too much power when it was cold, I guess. My butt kicker's going crazy. Alright, well, we've got an emergency landing. I don't like that power line there. I don't like the slideshow. Well, let's just do a whole reload here. Let's do that. See if it's any better. Let's go to London City again. Start a new flight. And let's actually not even bother with the REP. This is the normal one from Laminar, that's fine. Let's try this again. Yeah, really interesting. As soon as I moved those landmarks up, it just cratered. But I've also sometimes had this experience where if I, oh, and I never switched over. Oh, boy. Okay, so you guys saw this the whole time. You never even saw it in VR, did you? So let's see what kind of frames we're getting now here. Still terrible. Reload the sim. Well, if you guys think... Yeah, but this is still giving me just 12 or 13 frames a second. Okay, let's do. I mean, what the heck, we're here. Let's quit and do a reload. Can't hurt. VR headset and prop it up on my head a little better. I can tell from how to kill the sim that I'm having trouble just killing X-Plane. Okay, I'll minimize that so you guys don't have to see that. Let's make sure that we've got our overclocking set. That was fancy. Oh yeah, because we're still running Oculus. You know, the other thing I noticed is that it was forcing me to run Oculus. And I don't know why, if that's something new with the latest Oculus update, but usually I don't have to run Oculus to be in X-Plane. Yeah, Sid, I know. I mean, but I fly in VR a lot, and I usually don't find I have to give it that much settle time. I think it's because I had it loaded, and then I reloaded the scenery, and I think I just filled up on my VRAM. We'll find out, though. The good news is it only takes 3 or 4 minutes to get started again. It's telling me it's loading VR, which means it may force me to run Oculus anyway, because let me see if I look at my headset. Yeah, see, without Oculus open now, it doesn't turn on my headset, which is interesting to me. Check, check, check. Okay, now we're back. Now I think we're back. Good Lord. When it rains, it pours. Total chaos around here today. Oh my God. Okay. All I wanted to do is fly around London. Okay, you can really see the level of detail radius that I have set. I mean, you can see where the buildings just stop. And it's not very far out there. That's to save my frames. Now I'm on medium settings. So if we were to start to head out towards central London, I can increase that level of detail and we'll see more buildings, but I will have fewer frames. So I'm going to turn it down here. We'll see the difference. See, there's some. I turned it up. I turn it up even higher. Now you can see my frames just went down to 25 maybe. But that looks a lot more realistic. I mean, I'm honestly probably more likely to fly at 25 frames a second and be able to see this stuff. Even though it's a slideshow, let me turn those anti-alias settings down. So, you know, I imagine that if you're a VR flyer, this is part of what you're going to have to mess with, is, you know, how much detail can you afford at what object level setting. See, it's still not showing me the O2. So for some reason it's not loading my London objects. Well, that's okay. I can live with that. What I want to do is try to just get a sense of how the textures look more than anything else, rather than the stuff that ships with X-Plane. So if I run with them where I normally run, which is way down here, my level of detail settings, you can see that, you know, that just looks ridiculous. So there's got to be a compromise. If I turn them off and run with what X-Plane gives me, I've got a slideshow on my hands. I mean, that says 33 frames a second, but it is not. I can tell you that for sure. Well, I mean, I'm sure it is, but it sure doesn't look like it, because it is laggy. Very laggy. If I go to max quality with 3J FPS, if I go to max frames, then I get this, which is not a whole lot of London to see. A couple square blocks of London. Doesn't look like London. So that's one thing, is that level of detail. I guess what I could do is I could drop down the number of objects one more notch and get more objects. But that just doesn't look real. I mean, you know, you'd be seeing objects further away than this. Piper, we're flying and trying out the new Orbx England True Earth scenery, and I'm having mediocre success with it from a frame rates perspective. So we're trying to find kind of the best combination of settings. Now I could take the number of world objects down to medium, but you know, I'm not quite sure what the point is of flying around in someplace like London if you have to take the settings down to medium. And yeah, I definitely have the objects set incorrectly, although, you know, that certainly that looks like that tower. I mean, it's loading in that, but it's not loading in the tower bridge. So I have to get that figured out. Okay, so What did we learn? We learned that around London, the level of detail radius is a real issue. It's like having a rotating horizon around you in X-plane, and if you decide to make it high so that you can have it look like you're flying in a city, which is what this looks like. I've got a slideshow on my hands. A real slideshow. Yeah, see, that's supposed to be the Tower of London there. That's actually, that Tower Bridge is down there. There's the Tower Bridge, and there's the Tower of London. So that's rendered. So this looks fantastic right now, but it is a slideshow for me. 20 frames a second, which is unflyable in virtual reality. But that looks real. I mean, in terms of the scale and the distance and how many buildings you see, that looks right. There's Buckingham Palace down there. The trees are spectacular. There's the park. So, you know, this looks marvelous. I mean, really, really well done. But from a frames perspective, unmanageable for me. So I guess one thing we can try is let's try knocking the level of detail one on objects. See what that gives us. Hopefully, it gives us something manageable. Now, one of the things also, though, is you have to think about, now that this has been produced, it's been produced for current machines. And my machine now is almost 3 years old, 2.5 years old, coming up on 3, and still quite powerful. 980 Ti is still a great video card, but is now several generations old. And the PC is, you know, still quite good, but is also now a couple generations old. It has 4 cores, which I duplicate to 8. You know, there are now 12-core machines. I know that with X-plane, that's of limited value in certain respects, but eventually, when multi-threading and multi-core use is really optimized for X-plane, that's going to make a difference. So at some point here, we got to bite the bullet and get a new machine, and I plan to probably go to Jetline. Is it Jetline Systems, which are actually just north of Tampa, where I live, and find out what they can hook me up with and get a machine that's really optimized for the VR, and still use it to run the physical cockpit, but have VR be the primary choice in terms of its optimization, and see how that goes. Here we go. All right, so now let's see what we get. Okay, well, that's a bit more manageable. I mean, it doesn't have the same density of buildings. I mean, you can see there's a lot of London that isn't being rendered, but I can see stuff further away. It feels a bit more reasonable. We're holding at about 30 frames a second. It doesn't have Buckingham Palace anymore. Still has a lot of the trees and things. So this is a bit more manageable, I suppose, but I don't like turning objects down. I mean, for me, I want to be able to see the objects. And again, I think that's supposed to be Wembley out there, and that certainly doesn't look like Wembley. So I still have something that's placing scenery in here in the incorrect way. So I got to get that figured out. Okay, so medium objects is a bit more manageable. The underlying ortho looks great from an altitude of 2,700 feet. But you have to, for me at least, I have to sacrifice quite a bit in objects to get a draw distance that looks realistic. And that's not for me what I want to do. I mean, I like being able to to not have a environment be this sparsely populated. Okay, so let's make a change. Let's then go, let's pick a different airport. Let's try something in around Brighton. I guess I'd have to find an airport in the southern part of Great Britain. And I can do that in a second here with my ForeFlight on my phone. Okay. How about EGHH? Bournemouth. There we go. Someplace where I won't have to taxi a whole mile over at the Bournemouth Flying Club. That sounds good. We'll see how that does. Probably should have upped the objects while I was at it, but we'll see how it looks with them at medium, and then we'll bump them up to high and see what it looks when we're not in, how performance is when we're not in London. While I'm doing that, I'll look back at the yeah, so taxi, the FPS issue was solved. Yeah, I rebooted and it was back up to flyable, but it's interesting, the level of detail radius is quite low to have 45 FPS. London was really well rendered, you know, not like a circle around me. And so I dropped down to medium objects, and it certainly made a better draw distance, but I found that the city just didn't look busy enough. So I'm going to have to figure a way to optimize for something like flying around London in this. And then, at least in VR. And now we're moving to a more, a less urban environment to get a sense of what the performance is like there. And we'll do that comparison, and then I'll probably call it a day. I'll be eager to get a new PC. I won't be eager to get it all reconfigured, but okay. So here we are. Back in the saddle again. And frames here, not a lot better. 42, that's interesting. Yeah, it may be that it's VR, and it may be again that it's my system. Let's up the objects here. Oops. I might as well kill those while I'm at it, since we're not using any AI aircraft here. Yeah, let's up the objects to maximum here and see how it does. I also, the current settings I'm using with the shader modification have it looking a bit too high contrast. I'll have to modify those also. I don't know how it looks on the stream, but in the headset, too sharp, a bit too high contrast. It looks a little too artificial. You know, one of the things I think about Orbx stuff is it can look very realistic. They get colors really right. And I might, you know, reload the default shaders and see how that takes a look, and take a look at how that looks in a future flight. Because through the headset, to me, it's just not looking, doesn't look great. And again, that's because of the shader settings that I have set for sure. Okay, so I went to maximum objects, and we didn't really lose any frames at all. Let's fly here and see how things go. Oh, if most Cessnas only started that easily. Okay. Hello, Lucas. We are testing out the new Orbx South Great Britain True Earth scenery. London was pretty hard on my system in VR. So now we're trying in the south. And we'll see how it goes. So far, so good. This is nice and fluid. Working great. Let me just check and see what my 3FJS settings are. I'm going to set them for maximum quality. If I set them to maximum quality, I'm holding at 45 frames. So that's good. It could be it was just a London thing. So let's hop up and see. So are you saying, Lucas, that in VR it killed your frames? And that in the home cockpit it was okay? Right rudder, right rudder, right rudder, right rudder. Might be good to turn on the avionics while we're at it. Yeah, so too sharp because of my shaders doesn't look great to me. Yeah, interesting. So it must be a VR optimization thing. Okay, well here we are with maximum objects. And this is looking very nice. I still feel like the lighting is off. Let's play with the time of day and see if we can make it look a little bit better. That looks pretty spectacular down there, doesn't it? Let's head to the ocean. That's probably a solar farm. That looks pretty cool. There's our airport. .35 frames right now. I can live with that, given that it's maximum objects. The forests are really great. I mean, that's where your frame hit is those trees. But man, those trees are perfect. Look at the differences between them. That is really great. Again, my visual experience in the headset isn't awesome because of how the sharpness settings are set. If I look at what you guys are seeing in the Oculus mirror, it honestly looks much nicer than what I'm seeing. I'm looking at that right now. But this looks really sweet. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, so now we're talking. Getting good performance, 40 frames. That looks amazing. Yeah. Okay, so the future is here. Got to figure out how to get it perform well over London, but like this is Stunning. Look at that. Wow. Let's play with our time of day here a little bit. Look at this. Gotta love that. Wow. Okay, well, Orbx has done a remarkable job. I think we can say that pretty conclusively. I don't know why. There we go. That looks awfully nice. Let's bring the sun up. I mean, look at this is what VR is about right here. Looking back out that window. Hello, huge. Slowly bring the sun up. Here's the city at dawn. I mean, look at that. Wow, that's great. And my frames are great. Well, 25. My frames are acceptable. But I'm really not noticing it in the headset. It doesn't feel laggy, doesn't look laggy. You know, it's fine. It's smooth. There's the airfield. Yeah. Okay, so I get it. Orbx has done it. It's great. And I'm not even really looking for specific landmarks. I'm just flying around. Let's take us through the rest of the day. Start getting closer to sunset. They've got the houses nailed. And because you can have transparent road textures, let me go back. To not have to see the X-plane roads, to see the actual road textures is a big plus. Now you can do that, you can modify that anyway, but it looks great here. And back to the sunset. Well, that looks nice. That looks really real to me. That looks really, really real. And lights way off in the distance too, which is nice. Sometimes, you know, you don't see lights out very far, and there I feel like we have lights, and so I don't know how Orbx did that. Maybe they're textures that they have that render at a distance. There I can see a field with its lights. I can see the beacon. You know, also what I noticed in X-plane is often the fields stand out Like a sore thumb, you can see all the lights on the runways from a million miles away. I had adjusted some of those settings. I was playing with them a while ago. I don't know if it inherited them or not. I assume it didn't. But the fact that I can only see that beacon flashing in the distance there, that looks very realistic also. So I don't know if there's been a modification to the lights texture. Okay, there we just had some more lights pop. And there's the field we came from, and it's still quite bright, but not overwhelmingly so. All right, let's head back to the coast and see how things there look, and how the blending of the lighting of the water is. And I'll get us to be light again. There we go. Okay. East Midlands. You'll enjoy the scenery in regular view. I'm with Javier, yeah. I might. I haven't really flown a TBM before, so I don't know. But so far, I mean, again, 30, 35 frames, I mean, it's flying fine for me. It doesn't bother me. Look at that. Wow. That is great. I mean, come on. Can you imagine when they get Southern California done? Holy cow. I mean, I have to imagine they're gonna, well, so their plan is to do all the rest of Great Britain, and then to do the US in sections. I don't know, I haven't read about that yet, the TBM. Couldn't tell you. Now if I go auto, let's see how much scenery I lose. Quite a bit. Still looks great. My frames now have gone up to 45 again. I mean, it's hard to tell that you're not seeing buildings. I mean, that looks pretty good. But now if I switch back to max quality, you can see the difference. Again, auto with that 3F JPS or JFPS to there. If I look right beneath me, it's not really adding a whole lot, but you know, so you could make your decision if you want to sacrifice that or not. It's like, oh, we've got an aircraft carrier out there. Of course, it's always not unusual to have an aircraft carrier flying around the coast of England. They've done a nice job with water masking. You can see there. That looks nice. I wonder if are those boats objects? I think those boats are not objects. I think those boats are just captured in the... That looks awfully good there, doesn't it? Wow. Yeah, they've done a great job with the water masking. I mean, that looks fantastic. Synthetic vision, yeah, I don't know. I haven't played with it. Can't speak to that. Okay. So there's our field. How about a little night landing? Should we pick one more place to go to? Let's see here. Let's go to. Let's go to. Well, let's go see some of these fields and stuff. Oh, we've got cliffs over here. Let's go check out the cliffs. Might take us a while to get there. So yeah, I'm going, yeah, it's varying around 25 to 33 frames right now. With all that detail, again, if I go to the optimization setting, auto, I lose some of that. That's not so bad. That still looks pretty good. I preferred it the other way, but yeah. Yep. It is expensive. The scenery is the new Orbx, McShiggity. It is the new Orbx True Earth Great Britain South package. Hello, Jack. Good to see you. Bedford, 40 minutes north of London. No, Jet. Do you know the name of the airport? The airport ICAO code? Let's see what the real world weather conditions are. See if it looks more English with English weather. Taking them a long time to download, isn't it? Huh. So that's what we have with this is the real world weather conditions. I'm good, Jet. Yeah, if you can give me the code for Bedford, I'd be happy to fly there. Or to load into there. But see, this just looks amazing. Okay, so that looks great. That looks like the real thing. Really, really nice. Trying to remember what my anti-alias settings were. Yeah, 2 times, that's fine. That looks really sweet. What a great job. They have done a great, great job. So I could be flying around London or England for a while. The forests are so well done. I mean, look at that. That is great. Now, ortho scenery is awesome and would be no worse than this, but you have to have the underlying mesh to draw those trees where they have all those trees. And they have trees everywhere there are supposed to be trees. And it makes for a very different and much more compelling experience. Look at that, you've got the one car going along the road. That's great. Yeah, look at those. The variation of the trees, that's great. This is at 3,000 feet. Let's go up to 5 and see how it looks. EGFF. Yeah, I'll go to EGFF. What the heck? I want to go EGFF? Good with me. Let's go to EGFF. Cardiff Wales. Sounds good. We're taking requests here today. We'll just taxi. Somebody's done a good job of making this airport. May start at the end of the runway just so we can get going. And let's start with everything running. Not sure how long it'll take to load. We'll find out. So I was frustrated in London. I mean, London really hammered the frames, but the rest of it looks great, and that was a relatively populated area that we were in, and that was great. And of course, an awful lot of this part of the world is rural, but we'll load into Cardiff Wales and see how it looks. Piper Warrior Sim Project, I'd be interested to see how your sim's coming along. If you wanted to post something in the forums at ontheglideslope.net, that would be great. Was it 417? Okay, so this will be our last flight, then I'm going to have to... Oops. Hold on. Let's get ourselves suited here to fly. Where are we? Oh, we're in Wales. Okay. Here we go. I don't think we need all these lights on, but that's okay. We also would not be taking off from the displace threshold, but that's okay too. I haven't had a chance we'll go, okay, so we'll Bedfordshire Aerodrome, is that where we go next, or is that where I was? That's where I was, wasn't it? No, there's the trim. I have not tried it out yet. I got it out of the box, but I haven't had a chance to plug it in. Nice to see an American Airlines 767 hanging out in Cardiff. Okay, so Cardiff Wales, whoever requested this. The power plant looks good. There's a tower. Another tower. Zoso, I'm usually running at 45 frames a second. And that's what I'm running at right now in this part of the world. So it was really London that hurt me. Keith, I hope you're digging the Cardiff Wales here that we just loaded up. Give you a sense of how the villages look here in the Orbx scenery. Quite nice. They've done a nice job with the buildings, that's for sure. And it is more immersive not to have the ortho scenery, or not to have the X-plane roads on top of the ortho scenery roads. When you're really low, you can see the low quality of the stuff, but otherwise, the low, you know what I mean, the low quality of the resolution of those roads, because they're, I think, ZL17, but you know, this is also a place where Orbx gets stuff right. Their underlying mesh. So you can see here the tower that's there. If I look on my ForeFlight on my phone, I'm peeking out underneath my headset right now. If I had the map, it would tell me that there is a it would tell me that there was a obstacle there. We've got a wind farm ahead of us. My pleasure. There we've got a golf course. So, you know, you can only imagine great things coming from Orbx as they continue to build out this technology. Sorry to move the head around that fast. I know it makes people feel sick. I had to look at something. Like that village down there. How great does that look? Oh yeah, Bristol. I see where we are. The vicious chicken of Bristol. Let's see how this looks at night. Big Tower of Death there. Let's see if it's lit. There's a very large moon, unrealistic, but that's okay. That tower there is not lit, so it's a tower of death. But you can see towers out there that are lit. I think that's what that is. Let's see. Yeah. So quite a few lit towers. That one has a red flashing light on top of it. Boy, that's well done. There's that tower right there. It's got the red blinking light. That's a great detail. I still would like to make runway lights less bright. Next plane, I think they're unrealistic. But what can you do? Let's make it daytime again. What was that bright blinking light? Those are down there on the... big wind farm. All right, so we're getting up to 5,000 feet, so sort of standard GA altitude here. Gives you a sense of what you would experience flying around here. It covers basically the third part of Great Britain. So yes, they will have a central and a north. That's exactly what they'll do, Jet. Head due east toward Bristol. Okay, we'll try that. They haven't said anything, Jet, about when it will be available for the USA, but what they have said is they have said they'll do the rest of Britain first, and then they'll start coming to America. And I imagine they'll probably do SoCal first, or Seattle. And maybe Seattle, because I think one of the first ones they released was Pacific Northwest. Happy about the 430 IM. I haven't had a chance to get it configured or turned on yet, but it sounds very cool. Okay, so I've got time for one more request. Did you have a request, Jet, of where you wanted me to go? If you guys just tuned in, one of the things they've done really well, I'll fly over it so we can see it, is they've got the water masking really nailed. I mean, the coastlines look great. I'm going to go fly over there so you can see it. Let me turn max quality back on. There we go. So now I turn that off. So that should take me down to about 35 frames. Yeah, 33, but 35 frames I can live with. It's not very bad. That tower looks awesome. What a great job on that. EGBF. Isn't that where I just took off from? EGBF? I thought it was just there. Maybe not. I was at... Oh, there, EGBF. Let me check that out. Oh no. East Midlands. Okay, EGBF, sure. That's awesome that you know what tower that is. Yes, so we'll take off here in a minute, and you'll have a chance to see the tiles up close. I think they're ZL17. They look pretty good. Once you're a couple hundred feet up on the above the ground, they look quite fine. I mean, look at that. God, you gotta love that. Can you believe the time we live in? What flight sim? I mean, to trick your brain to think that you're looking out the window at 5,000 feet in 3D. So that is, yeah, so you can start to see the quality of the masking there. Looks really good, as you can see. Like that right there. Ooh, I just got a case of the leans. Awesome. I definitely recommend in the configuration turning off the roads so that you don't have the default X-plane road textures. That looks spectacular, spectacular good. Okay, so we're going to go to that other airport for UJet, East Midlands, EGBF. Okay, next stop on the tour. We'll get a tour around the Midlands. We've been to the coast, we've been to Wales. Now we'll go to the Midlands, EGBF. Bedford. Bedford is what you said, right? Maybe that doesn't qualify as the Midlands, but we'll find out. Start with the engines running. It's going to take a minute to load because we're in a different part of Britain. Keith says if I'd kept flying north, you would have heard me fly over. Well, virtually we can imagine it, can't we? That was really, I'm really excited about. So London had me discouraged. I had not great frames in London, and to get great frames, well, first of all, at Max Objects, London looks astonishingly good. Looks amazing. But the draw distance, you know, I used 3J FPS to keep my frames reasonable, and the draw distance was just not very far away. So it looks like London, you know, for 5 miles around you, and then it doesn't look like London anymore. So I had to bump down the objects to sort of medium level to get a greater draw distance, you know, and eventually maybe I just have to find a way to live with that or just not fly in and out of London, which is fine. You know, there's especially when they get Central and North done. I mean, God, you could just fly around Scotland for days and days and days and be happy and not really see any cities. Well, there are no other cities of that size. So that was a bit discouraging, but you know, the flights that we've done, the 2 other places that we've hopped to since then have been really great, and they look great at night. And things like that TV tower there at Cardiff that we saw, that, you know, is a real local object. It's that level of quality that Orbx brings to the game. Okay, now we've got some clouds. That'll be interesting. Let me get reseated here. Okay. Sorry, my VR is sort of adjusting. Okay, that feels pretty good. Might back this up just a little bit. Okay. Good question about will Vulcan help. Let me answer that for you as best as I know, and I may not know best. But Vulcan is going to allow X-Plane to better optimize across multiple cores, which will help if you are constrained. I love that X-Plane has curved runways, by the way, sloped runways. So if you have multiple cores, it'll do a better job of using them, which will help. And then in addition, so you were wondering about the quality of the tiles up close. Here you go. As you can see, I think they look quite good. We're at 500 feet. The trees along that road, magic. Look at that, right where they're supposed to be. That church looks nice. Vulcan will help with that, but also the future video cards are going to be made to use that technology as well, so it should help across the board. I think there are a lot of people who thinking they're going to see their frames double. I think that's unrealistic. I'm expecting maybe 20-25%. So if, without 3J FPS right now, if I turned off my frame lock in Oculus Debug Tool, my frames are holding at 45. If I turn them off completely, if I turn off 3J FPS, my frames are at 31. So if it goes up 20%, somebody has traffic here over this airport. So if it goes up 20%, then my frames would be 37. That's not a huge increase. That's not going to save the world. Now, there are a lot of places where I'm flying where my frames without VR are running at 90 frames a second, or something like that. 100 frames, then it goes up to 120. That's a pretty good increase. But I don't think Vulcan is going to save the day. I think what's going to save the day is more powerful. At some point, the technology of the computer. Let me go back to maximum quality on this. At some point, and let me turn my space warp back on. At some point, the quality of the computer is going to get ahead of the quality of the coding. Meaning, you can only, at some point, you've got zoom level 26 and every object in the world rendered, and they're all in 4K textures, and it's sort of like bandwidth. There's a long time where we were like, when am I going to have enough bandwidth? And now, you got bandwidth is not the problem anymore. You can stream anything that you want to stream, and that'll happen at some point here. Our PCs are going to be so powerful that they can handle anything that the software developers can throw at them. But we're a ways away from that, so I think Vulcan will be helpful, but I don't think it's going to be a panacea. Now, I'll take my extra 20%. I mean, right now I'm running at 22, probably because of these clouds, and if I could be running at 25, that would help. There's nothing wrong with that. And again, I'm running max quality for me right now. If I were to adjust it so 3J FPS was able to do its normal job. And I'm looking away right now because I'm playing with 3J FPS. 3J FPS. And if I were to turn it on to auto, still looks beautiful, right? And now I'm getting 43 frames again. So, you just got to be able to compromise and live with not being able to see every single object in every part of the world with every bit of scenery. But eventually, our machines are going to be so powerful. I don't think it'll matter. you'll have 4K native VR flying over ZL20 tiles with total mesh, and you know it's going to be an amazing future. See you, taxi. Good to see you. That's funny, Jet. So, you know, it just loaded in the new weather, the clouds, the visibility. This is looking pretty good. I mean, this makes me feel like I'm flying around London. Okay, let's bring her home, boys. Make it. I want to do a little bit of a night landing, I think. That looks good, doesn't it? Those clouds look good, don't they? Give me a little more light than that. My butt kicker just stopped working for some reason. I want to see a little bit of the countryside, but still be able to see the taxiway lights. That looks good. All right. Queenstown, New Zealand. I don't think I have. My pleasure to go to Cardiff. Well, when you get the package, Keith, send the guys at Orbx a note saying that you bought it because of the demo. The more people who know that I help guys. That's cool. Look at those four. That's cool. I wonder what that is. Let's see. Well, it's just some tower or something. The more of those guys who know that I help the hobby, the better off it is, because I can demo more stuff for you. Orbx has never sent me anything. I never ask anybody to send me anything. A lot of guys will. I don't. Every once in a while I've been planning to buy something, and I've sent a note and said, hey, I'm going to buy this. I've decided to buy it regardless, but for promotional consideration, would you consider a discount? And one or two guys have done that. But, you know, my view is developers work hard and they need to make an honest buck also. And the last thing they need is a bunch of people hitting them up for discounts. So, and when I've got something I've really liked, you know, I've really worked hard to make sure that the developers who are responsible for it were appropriately recognized for that. Let's get up that notch. For cross country. Whoa, whoa. Yeah, they're great for cross country preparation. There's nothing like it. Got some stutters here though. I'm not quite sure why. Okay, so I gotta go. So we're gonna put it down right here, and then that'll be the end of this. Check ride status. Just have to schedule it. I've got one night cross country to do and schedule the check ride. All that stuff's been canceled multiple times, mostly because of my travel schedule, but also in some cases because of weather. 80, we can slow it down a little bit. Terrain ahead. Yeah, I bet. Final flaps. I love sloped runways. Looks so real. Now we're a little slow. I notice when you get that final set of flaps in the 172, it really slows it down. Coming out of the throttle, she drops like a rock. Okay. That was fun. So there you go. That's a quick view of the Orbx South Great Britain True Earth package. It's awesome. London hogs her frames, but the rest of the thing is great to see. Thank you, Jet, for the vote of confidence. I appreciate it. I'll probably get the 430 up and running, David, in probably a week. I just don't know if I'm going to have time. But there we go. So we got to get off this runway. Everybody, thanks again for watching. We will see you on the next stream. Hope you enjoyed it.